From Iraq to Afghanistan to the trenches of Ukraine right now, it's been carried by the world's most elite operators and loved by those who used it. Yet in October 2025, FN switched off production for good. Today, the rifle system that did almost everything right and still got the job. The FN SCAR. After 9/11, American special operators were run ragged. Iraq, Afghanistan all at once, thousands of rounds through their rifles every single month, and the rifle, the early M4s, started cracking under the pressure. Sometimes literally. The M4 had been derived from the AR-15 M16 type system with a gas system intended for a 20-inch barrel. So when they shortened it to 14.5 inches, the gas port ended up way closer to the chamber, where the pressures were far higher. The bolts getting slammed back harder from all the extra pressure, there's just less rifle, less metal to absorb all that heat, more wear, more breakages. The M4 was originally only really intended for support troops anyway. Vehicle crews, staff officers, people whose annual round count barely makes it past double digits. Not spec ops teams blasting through thousands of rounds a month in the killing house. Plus, early barrels were thin-profiled too, overheating faster under sustained fire. Fine within the parameters of a standard 7-magazine combat loadout, but push beyond this, either because a spec ops mission demands it, or the mess really has hit the fan, and things can break in a dramatic way. So 2002, Socom writes a wish list. One family of rifles, reconfigurable in the field with no special tools, able to cover both 5.56 and 7.62mm, ambi controls, and reliability that can take the hammering these guys demand from their gear. Back in 2002, it was pretty revolutionary. Hey, just quickly everyone, I get loads of questions in the comments about where I get the replicas that I show in my videos. So I need to give a quick shout out to Patrol Base Airsoft, who sent over today's Cybergun SCAR H. This thing is stunning. Full weight, official FN licensed with their markings, absolutely incredible and yeah, really decently built. Patrol Base are the UK's largest airsoft retailer. They carry a huge range of gear online. They have a physical store in Huddersfield, and they even run monthly events at their Halo Mill proving grounds that I'm hoping to visit pretty soon. And if you're new to the hobby and don't have an airsoft license yet, no worries, Patrol Base offers a two-tone service, meaning anyone over 18 in the UK can legally pick one up. Go check them out. So, the selection process. There were 9 companies, 12 prototypes, all the big players turned up, including Colt, HK, FN, Robinson Armament, and more. The winner announced in 2004 was FN, with their Special Operations Forces Combat Assault Rifle, known to me and you as the SCAR. FN were no stranger to large military contracts. Their FAL had armed half the free world for over 50 years by this point. Their MAG machine gun still serves with the British Army today, the Mini-Me is still one of the go-to choices for belt-fed 5.56, and the new Evolis is damn cool. So FN were hardly learning on the job. The brief was the stuff of a designer's dreams. A clean sheet, build what special operators actually need, and don't compromise. The winning design. So after years of graft, the SCAR was finally ready. Low-rate production testing wrapped up in June 2007, and the first rifles reached the lads in April 2009. The 75th Ranger Regiment got the honour, carrying around 600 of them into Afghanistan that year. So what exactly had the Belgians built? Well, kind of one, but also really 2 rifles, with both systems built around a short-stroke gas piston design. The SCAR L, or Light, is chambered for 5.56mm, fed from bog-standard 30-round Stanag magazines, just like the M4 takes. A 14-inch barrel is standard, 3.3 kilos or about 7.3 pounds. And the big brother? The SCAR H, or Heavy, is chambered in 7.62 and fed from chunky 20-round magazines. As standard, it has a 16-inch barrel, weighs 3.6 kilos, just shy of 8 pounds, and it's able to reach out and hit targets at around 800 meters, or roughly half a mile. And you know what? The guys who got these liked it. The piston ran cleaner than an M4, the ambi controls were a revelation, barrel swap worked exactly as it was supposed to. Socom had managed to write a wish list, hand it to the Belgians, and flying in the face of virtually every prior procurement nightmare you've ever heard of, they somehow seem to have actually got the rifle that they asked for on the first try. So, obviously, that wouldn't do at all. The first kick in the teeth. June 2010 came around and the SCAR had been in service for barely 12 months, with many guys liking it, when Socom pulled the plug on the entire Mark 16 program. The official reason? They said the Mark 16, or the Scar Light, wasn't significantly better enough than an M4 to justify spending the money. So what had gone wrong with the rifle? Nothing really. While FN spent 6 years building the Scar, Colt and the military had been quietly tinkering with the M4's internals. New heavier barrel, better bolt carrier groups, improved buffers, little tweaks here and there. So by 2010, the M4A1 that the lads were getting was a significantly better weapon than what had actually triggered the whole Scar program back in 2002. Socom had ordered a replacement for a rifle that had issues, paid millions to FN for the Scar's development. Meanwhile, the military had fixed the broken rifle anyway, so they kinda didn't need their new toy from FN. And it wasn't even the rifle's fault. The Scar L was certainly better than the baseline M4 it was built to replace. In fact, it was better than the M4A1, it just wasn't better enough to spend the big bucks on. Well, not counting the measly $19 million they'd already poured down the drain. $19 million for a rifle that served about 1 year. Mind you, the heavy Mark 17 did survive the cull, partly because being a modern 7.62mm platform was pretty unique at the time, and partly because the H could be converted down to 5.56 if required. But the dedicated light variant, the new 5.56 Wonder rifle, was dropped, and the special operations personnel who expected the best gear on the market arguably had to settle for second best. Now you'd think that would be the end of it, except the Scar flatly refused to die. It kind of bred like rabbits. There was the super cool Mark 20 SSR, a precision rifle for designated marksmen. The Scar SC, a stubby little super compact for vehicle crews and close protection teams. There was also a 40mm grenade launcher, the EGLM, that bolted neatly underneath. Plus the semi-auto civilian variants, the 16S, 17S and 20S from 2008. And military customers soon came knocking. There was Belgians' own special forces, obviously. France used the Scar H, Poland, Norway, Georgia, Chile, Philippines, Lithuania, on and on. Over 20 countries by the mid-2010s. And then Ukraine. In 2022, after the Russian invasion, Belgium shipped thousands of FN rifles out east. So there are Scar variants fighting right now, as you sit watching this, in the biggest land war Europe has seen since 1945. Doing the job, holding the line. Now, while all this was going on, the British Army decided to have a crack at rejecting the Scar as well. Because if there's one thing this rifle has a talent for, it's getting rejected by English-speaking governments. The lads in Helmond kept getting shot at from ranges that the 5.56, SA-80 and LSWs couldn't quite answer, despite the SA-80 family being fairly well renowned for its accuracy. You can check out more on the SA-80 family up here. So, the British Army went hunting for a 7.62 semi-automatic sharpshooter rifle, something that they could push down to ordinary infantry sections rather than locking away just with the snipers. The Scar Heavy was considered, right caliber, combat proven, modular, but it got knocked back. Bizarrely, the Scar Heavy was judged to not be heavy enough. A rifle with the word heavy in its name literally got rejected for not being heavy enough. Now there is a bit of sense buried in there. For slow, deliberate shooting at long range, a heavier rifle can be your friend. It soaks up recoil and sits steadier between shots. But FN had shaved the Scar's weight down for fast, mobile special forces work. For the British in Afghanistan, the Scar was too good at the wrong job. So the contract instead went to Lewis Machine & Tool, who created the L129A1, essentially a custom-built SR-25, and it's actually really nice. The British issued it down to the section level into the hands of the ordinary rifleman, giving every squad a powerful DMR that could take over whenever 5.56 was running out of steam. Right, let's actually talk about the rifle itself now, warts and all. Let's start with the gas system, because it's more clever than it sounds on paper. It's a fairly common short-stroke gas piston design, where the piston just moves back a small amount, doesn't ride all the way back. But what's missing in here compared to almost every other design is the long piston rod to connect the gas parts to the bolt carrier back here. Instead, the bolt carrier itself has a long arm reaching forward to meet up with the piston. So at a glance, the thing looks like a big, rugged, long-stroke system like an AK. But it isn't. It's a short-stroke piston system with a long-stroke looking bolt carrier group. The payoff is that, like other short-stroke gas piston systems, all that filthy hot gas stays out of the receiver, but you get more mass in the bolt carrier to help keep cycling really consistent. The barrel does swap out in minutes, just like Socom wanted. You can take this thing apart, get the barrels out in a few minutes and swap it over to a longer or shorter one. The built-in irons are really nice actually, I have to say. A lot like something off a machine gun, where you can turn the bottom of the barrel to get your elevation for different distances. And you've got a choice of 2 different size diopters. The ambidextrous controls are great. You've got a fire selector that goes through to both sides of the rifle. Mags can be removed from either side. The only criticism that people commonly have is that the selector switch's positions don't go as far as you might expect. On an M4, when the switch is at its vertical position, you're on semi. When you bring it right round 180 degrees, that's when you're on full auto. For the SCAR, semi is just 45 degrees, while full auto is just 90. Not a massive difference, but a soldier going for their muscle memory is just going to flick it straight to full auto when they might only want a single shot. The flat dark earth finish never quite matches perfectly across the different materials used for their rifle, resulting in what's affectionately called the 50 Shades of FDE. The side folding stock is great, there's no buffer system back here, so you can close it up, the rifle will actually still fire. And I love how the design uses the case deflector as the retainer for the stock. And that brings us to this rifle's somewhat famous stock design, which for the last 2.5 decades has had the misfortune to be remembered not for its foldability, adjustability, movable cheek rest or anything like that. The main thing people remember is the fact that it looks a bit like an Ugg boot. Millions of dollars of cutting-edge R&D, and the rifle's mostly remembered for looking a bit like a piece of women's fashionable footwear. Then the big one, the charging handle. For a start, it's a bit shorter than you might actually expect, so if you give it a good yank, there's a chance that you're going to smack your knuckles into any optic you might have fitted. But worse than that is the fact that on earlier rifles, the bolt reciprocated with every shot, meaning you had to be disciplined to keep parts of your body out the way of the charging handle to avoid a stoppage or worse, breaking bones in your hands. Personally, just handling the rifle, my tendency is to put my thumb straight up in the way of that charging handle, which isn't ideal. Even when I try and consciously hold it a bit further forwards, I'm already putting my thumb right out where it shouldn't really be and I'm asking for trouble. The SCAR looks like it wants to give me another thumb scar. The charging handle can actually be flipped to the other side of the gun where it would be much more out the way for most users, but then it becomes super awkward for a right-handed user to actually use. FN eventually offered a non-reciprocating handle version, and any whining stopped. So a few little gripes. But for all of those problems, when you ask anyone who actually carried one of these in harm's way out in the field, you'll get the same answer every time. It shoots great. In November 2009, the very same year the rifle entered service, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 dropped and put the SCAR H into millions of hands around the world. It was a hard hitter, and it was the rifle that taught an entire generation that battle rifles are distinctly different animals from an assault rifle. After that, the thing was everywhere. Black Ops 2, Modern Warfare 3, the 2019 reboot, Battlefield 3 and 4, Rainbow Six Siege, Tarkov, Warzone, Ghost Recon, The Division, Far Cry, PUBG. Honestly, if a game is set anywhere near the present day, and it involves shooting, it's going to have a SCAR somewhere. And on the big screen, the high point came in 2012 with Act of Valor, a film starring actual serving Navy SEALs carrying their actual kit. Those weren't filming props, they were real rifles that those guys took to work, which is about as close to an official endorsement as the SCAR ever got. The civilian SCARs, the 16S, the 17S, hit the shops in 2008, and the 17S in particular built up a bit of a cult following. But its life as a civvy rifle was kind of hemmed in from the very start. It's expensive, and it's proprietary. $3 to $4 grand bought you the base SCAR. That same money could get you a top-level AR-15, quality optic on top, a pile of magazines and ammunition. The SCAR's fans were loyal and loud, but loyal and loud doesn't always pay the bills. Over the years, FN's accountants began to question whether the SCAR should continue to even exist. the real rival. The M4s and civilian AR-15s are the obvious rival for the SCAR, but there's another system from one of the biggest names in the business, which was always a thorn in FN's side, the HK-416. The 416 pulled off the exact trick that the SCAR couldn't. It took all the good stuff, piston reliability, ambidextrous controls, modularity, and wrapped it all up in a body that was near as makes no difference, an AR-15. Same controls, same muscle memory, same endless ocean of mags and spares. So while the SCAR asked militaries to learn a whole new system, the 416 offered more or less the same benefits without anywhere near the same logistics and training cost. The 416 went on to be adopted by the French Army, Norway, Germany. It turned up as the USMC's M27 and became one of the most widespread rifles in all of NATO. And that, as we're about to find out, was a lesson FN took to heart. Why we can't have nice things. October 2025, FN quietly confirmed the end of commercial SCAR production. The reason given? Lack of demand. No fanfare, no send-off, and sure enough at SHOT Show January 2026, having just buried the SCAR back in October, FN promptly dug it back up again. The new Mark II, the same silhouette but with the old gripes finally sorted. So the SCAR was dead for all of 3 months. There was also a second heir to the throne, the 5.56 only Arca. The SCAR's piston and bolt lifted straight out and dropped into a far more AR-15-esque body. FN are swearing blind that the Arca isn't a replacement for the SCAR Light. And what of Socom, the guys who started this whole story? Well, they're finally retiring the Mark 16, the SCAR Heavy, and its replacement is the LMT Mark 24, a rifle with quick-change barrels, swapping between 7.62 NATO and 6.5 Creedmoor. It's fully ambidextrous, modular from end to end. In other words, it's kind of the SCAR's CV copied word for word, but with that 6.5 Creedmoor adaptation. And by the way, LMT, that's Lewis Machine & Tool, the very same firm whose rifle beat the SCAR for that British contract years ago. The SCAR was a rifle ordered because the M4 had problems, which ended up being cancelled because the M4 got fixed in the meantime. And then 15 years later, it was effectively replaced by rifles built to the exact specification it pioneered in the first place. As a design, the SCAR was never a failure. It was a victim of timing, politics, and of a system where the people carrying the rifle and the people signing the checks never do see eye to eye. Hey, if you enjoyed this one, hit like, subscribe, and check out this video here for more great firearms content.